Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to Games Cage Talks, episode 7, my weekly podcast where I interview people that I will know or sometimes don't know from across the world, whether it's content creators or voice actors or anyone really that comes to mind and that I feel like trying to get on here. And this week we have a very special guest. You can introduce yourself. It is Kira Buckland.
Yeah. I'm always honored whenever someone says very special guest. It's like, ooh, I'm
Oh,
special.
exactly, right? Because, yeah, I mean, to you, I'm sure to yourself, you're just like, I'm a casual person, but to others, you're special, which is
Right. I'm
really
just like
cool.
a weird cat lady. So,
Oh my God. How you doing? How's life been for you this year?
it's been okay. I mean,
Hmm.
2020 is certainly not a normal year.
Definitely not. 1,000% not. It's something that's. Have you, has it affected any of the work you've been doing or not really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
So,
really?
pretty much we've all been having to record from home. And
Oh.
normally, how it works is we'll do a lot of our auditions from home because it's just kind of easier,
Mm-hmm.
if you're just getting quick sample reads from people to just have them do it from their home setups on their own schedule, whatever. But
Right.
normally, when it comes to like recording final projects, we have to physically go in.
Right.
So, obviously, that's kind of out the window with
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19. So, everybody had to really get their home setups like proper home setups. And
Right.
I already had like a full booth. Like I had a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I still had to spend a lot of money to upgrade just because like certain things, like they had certain requirements.
Right. Is it like a mic you had to get that's better or like a room? Is it like.
Yeah, and like a better audio interface and
Mm-hmm.
a few different things. I had to get like a separate monitor because doing dubbing from home and stuff, I need to be able to see a lot of things at once.
Oh, right, because like you'd have to like look at what you're like voice acting, I guess.
Yeah, like you have
That's
to have the
interesting.
video and the script and then your backup recording program at the same
Mm-hmm.
time and.
Yeah, of course you gotta be. Yeah, you sound. I've never been on call with someone with like a more professional sounding like microphone and sound quality. It's insane.
Yeah, it's I have a Sennheiser 416. It's
Mm-hmm.
for that price it better sound great,
Oh my
but
God.
it sounds really good. Like I like to freak people out by being like, "This call is being recorded for
Holy
quality
shit!
assurance and training
Oh my
purposes."
God! Holy shit! That's horrifying. Wow, that was really good. That's scary. That's scary.
I did that for my friend the other day and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I thought that was like a bot voice."
You should, yeah. Do you like start calls like that just to freak people out? That's amazing. That's great.
Hello, thank you for
Oh
calling. This party is currently unavailable.
God. You should do it like. Oh, that's hilarious. That's great. I'm sure it's good to. I mean, I'm sure amongst your friends, because obviously you can't do them on calls, but I'm sure amongst friends you like mess around and do like the different voices of characters and stuff. Like that's
Too much. I
too
feel
much.
like so
Hmm.
many of the people I know are actors, they just find it annoying, like, "Why are you showing off?" We can all do that.
Yeah, we can all hang out and do these things. Is it usually like a? Is it like a when voice actors? Is it like a community? Because I feel like I don't know that. Is it like a group of people that are like friends and you all know each other, or is it like very solo like?
I think that kind of depends because
Mm-hmm.
usually we record individually, but a lot of times you just maybe sort of get to know the other people who are in the same field as you, especially because a lot of it is pretty location based.
Right.
The home records are kind of like it's just like a temporary thing. So
Mm-hmm.
normally there's a community of people in the LA area and then also in Texas there's a pretty big
Mm-hmm.
community of actors who work at like Funimation and stuff like that. Um in terms of, like, friendships and stuff, I mean, I think it depends. It's kinda like you all have the different lunch tables, and,
True.
um, not everybody gets along. I think the fact of any industry, to be brutally honest, is that, there's always gonna be drama, there's always gonna be,
Right.
just stuff that goes on like that. But I think a lot of people kind of find their own little groups within that.
Right.
In the same way, there's like people who do a lot of stuff online and they have their own groups. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually help admin a Discord server for voice actors, and we've
Oh,
got like 6,000 people. I mean, they're not
that's
all
amazing.
active, but still, I try to create sort of a community where people can feel comfortable asking questions and stuff like that.
That's really cool. That's like a cool idea, right? Because I'm sure, like, because how old are you, by the way? You're If you're okay
I'm
with this,
32,
you're
so
32, right?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure like the landscape of being able to like help people and communicate with others has been like massively changed over the years for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because I've been doing voice acting since I was 16. Granted, that was as a hobby when I started out, not like
Right.
as a profession. I think I got into it as a profession when I was like in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've seen a lot of changes even in like the online landscape and stuff like
Oh,
that,
for
which is
sure.
part of why I help admin the community and I mentor other people and stuff like that. Because, way back when I was doing like flash animations and indie games
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of stuff, it was like, nobody ever got paid for that kind of stuff. It was
Oh,
just volunteer
really?
work. Obviously, like the professional actors doing like actual games and cartoons and stuff, like they got paid, but that was like a totally different world from the stuff that we were doing online,
Right. From like the internet crowd.
Because people didn't really like monetize content the way they do now. That was like before YouTube and stuff.
Right.
And now that it's like, people do Kickstarter, GoFundMe, like crowdfunding in general
Patreons.
is a
Yeah.
thing. And people will like put ads on videos and sell things. So now that like that stuff's more monetized, the voice acting people can charge for that even if it's just like internet projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really good opportunity, especially for actors who don't live in LA and Texas to kind of like do stuff, get
Right.
practice, get resume experience.
Do you think do you think if anything maybe what's going on now because a lot of companies are forced to like in like start working making people work from home, it's going to give people more chances, or do you think if anything like they're trying to hold on to like whoever they have to try and work on professional stuff?
Honestly, I kind of think that most studios are going to want the home records to be temporary because
Oh,
it
okay.
is a lot of extra work for them. If you have all the actors coming in, you have them in the same space on the same equipment. It's just like a lot easier and it goes faster because with the remote dubbing, especially, it's like they have to slide everything into place and there's like a delay and it's
Right.
it's just like a lot of extra time and work. And then if somebody doesn't have a perfect home space or like they have noise in the
Yeah.
background or whatever, that's more work for the mix editors to kind of like fix all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them like aren't too happy about that, I don't
Right.
think. So
Right. Yeah.
I imagine they'll want to get everyone back in as much as possible, but kind of my hope for the future is that there can be more crossover between markets. So like for example, if they really want an actor for a show here, but they live in Texas, they could just have them do it's a program called Source Connect where they kind of get their audio and can edit it in real time and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or like vice versa, I'd love to work on shows in Texas or I'd love it if I were to take a trip somewhere for 2 weeks, I could just like remote record my stuff so that I don't have to worry about getting replaced on things and.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's yeah, it's crazy. Now it's been fascinating to see how like every specific industry gets affected by this in one way or another. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, like I feel like because I've had other people on the show, like whether it's just internet content creators or like 3D modelers or other people just being like, yeah, it's like it's some for sometimes it's a good thing, for some others in other ways it's a hassle. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer just going to the booth and having the interactions, or are you much more of a introvert, like work from home person?
I like about both. With
Mm.
working from home, it's like I don't have to drive. I don't, I can sleep longer.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't have to do my hair and makeup. I can wear pajamas if I
that's
want
true.
to. I
That's
can just
true.
look like a total potato and just, But on the other hand, like it does get really hot in my home booth.
Oh
Like
really?
everybody has that complaint, especially because it's summer right now in California, so it's
Oh
like
jeez.
really, really miserable. And I think the other thing too is just like it can be harder to record from home because we have to worry about setting our audio levels between lines. We have to
Right.
kind of like record stuff on our end. And it's not like that hard, but you know what I mean?
It's
Like you go in
annoying for sure.
studio
Yeah.
and yeah, and you have like the audio engineer who does all the technical stuff for you.
Yeah.
So you can just worry about
Do
acting.
your thing. Exactly.
And you
Yeah.
still have them on the line for home recording, but there is just more stuff you have to do on your end.
For sure, for sure. Damn, that's what did you have any like big plans that were shifted this year, or like, or is it mostly like around the same thing? I assume
I
like
mean, not terribly. Like, I wanted to go to Japan again this year, but I
oh
didn't
yeah,
have
I
any
know.
like set plans.
Hmm. Yeah, I want to go for the because they were gonna. I mean, not anymore. They were gonna open the Nintendo World in the summer. I want to go so badly.
Oh,
It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I know like some of my friends who do a
Mm.
lot of conventions and stuff, they were sad because their conventions all
Oh
got
yeah.
canceled. I mean, I don't really get like asked to a lot of conventions, but you know, if I were, I'm sure I would be feeling a lot more
Yeah.
disappointment from that.
Right. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you were saying earlier you were doing this since you were like 16. So does that kind of mean like it was always ultimately the path, or was there like well, because you said you were doing it for like fun back then, right? So was there something else you had in mind to do, or was this the passion from the start?
Well, I kind of knew I liked performing. That was my big thing. But
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't really think about voice acting in specific,
Right.
I kind of wanted to be a singer. Like that was
Oh.
sort of my thing because I've always really liked rock music. So I was like, oh, I want to be in a rock band. Like that was kind of my goal since I was
Right.
12. But of course, everyone's like, that's not really a realistic goal. And I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't very good at singing. I tried really hard. Like I practiced all the time and I'm still like really bad.
Oh really? Oh,
So,
I thought there was gonna be like a redemption where you're like I made it to a band at some point.
oh, I wish. I wish. Some days I'm still like, oh, one day I'll be in a band,
One
even
day.
just for fun. But yeah, like I kind of wanted to do that, but like there were a couple things about it like I I loved like performing, but I didn't really like having to like physically be on
Right.
stage and have people see me or like be filmed or
Like
whatever.
physical acting, right?
And I didn't like writing my own lyrics. Like I didn't feel like I was very good at that. Like I liked
Right.
performing cover songs because I was like giving life to somebody
Yeah,
else's words,
exactly.
you know? So when I discovered kind of like more anime and games and that sort of thing and realized
Mm.
like, oh, there's people who are like voice performers and they're kind of like they just do the voice, but they don't have to like physically, because I liked acting, but I just never really got into like plays or anything like that. And,
Mm-hmm.
I've never like really wanted to do on camera stuff. So, um, it just kind of like made a lot of sense to me that, oh, this is something I would love to do. But I grew up in Alaska, so there's
Oh my
not really
God.
any
Yeah,
like
that sounds
voice
like
work up there.
yeah.
So other people I knew there at the time were like, "Oh, we do voices for like flash cartoons. We just record it on the computer and just like send it in." And I was
Right.
like, "Oh, I can do that." So I started auditioning for stuff and
Mm.
I got really lucky back then because there just weren't a lot of like women on that site who did
Right.
voices at the time. So people get like their sister to do it or they do their own voice and pitch it up or whatever. And I was just like, "Hey, like I'm an actual girl who voice
I can
acts."
do
And I mean, that was
it.
pretty much my selling point. Like
Right.
I made like a crappy demo or whatever.
Mm. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, it's cool to see. It's cool. I was thinking because like I feel like whenever it comes to anything like something like voice acting or literally acting or content creation, it's like because it's usually stuff you grow up hearing and listening if you're into entertainment and you don't always think that's gonna be you like unless you're like crazy into it and you have a drive. It's like it's always fascinating to see when you actually make it in there.
Right. Like I always tell people because I like fighting games that the first
Hmm.
fighting game that I ever played because I got into games kind of late was and I was like 16
Oh really?
and
Okay.
somebody had me play Soul Calibur at a friend's
Hmm.
house. It was Soul Calibur 2 back then. And I remember like imitating the voices and stuff and being
Oh
like,
right.
oh,
Yeah.
I wish I could do that or
Hmm.
whatever, like not thinking that I ever actually would. And now years down the line, Soul Calibur 6 is a thing and I played two characters in it. Like that
That's
is just
amazing.
unreal to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, oh yeah, you actually got to be in. Wait, what's the other character you voiced in Soul Cal? Because I know obviously you voiced 2B.
Tell him.
Oh Callum. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's surreal. Yeah, I mean that must be like,
Wind, guide me.
oh my god, that's amazing. What's the 2B battle quote in Soul Cal? Because I have her
I'm trying
obviously.
to remember because she's got a few,
Let's
but
see.
there's like this whole thing she does with the pod at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one that's kind of like a joke quote because she I don't know. There's one where the pod is like item retrieved or whatever, and she
Mm-hmm.
goes, "What is it?" And then it's like I see or whatever, and that's like the normal one that plays most of the
Right.
time. But then there's another where she kind of does this like pose, and the pod goes, "Alert! We are being watched from below."
Oh
And
my
she's like,
god,
"From below?" And then
that's
she kind of like
amazing.
stares at the camera and gives you this accusatory look. I love it.
That's great. And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, speaking of 2B, is like, I feel like that's a character. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that like a character that I think blew up in terms of just how much people loved your performance for that specific one? Because I feel like that is the
I don't
case.
even think necessarily it was my performance that did it. I think people just loved the game itself and the
Right.
story. And, you know, when you have something, because it's a game that hits people very hard emotionally.
Mm.
And so I think they become kind of invested in the voice acting as a result, just because it's telling that story that's really dramatic and
Mm-hmm.
really emotional and sad in a lot of ways.
Right. Well,
But yeah, I had no idea that it was going to blow up the way it did.
yeah, I mean, like, I feel like why it's such a unique sounding voice is because, first of all, I mean, like, the idea of, like, robotic, human like characters is a different kind of character. So I feel like it's the way you kind of have a bit of that, like, robotic monotone voice that because they don't really feel fully emotional, and add emotion to that. I feel like that's why it's such a unique voice, that because obviously usually in games it's either like, you know, wizard or soldier or like things we're used to, whereas I feel like this specific character type is not something we really see in games. I feel like that's why the character and voice associated with it, like, I feel like they really go hand in hand. Like, there's characters that I love just because of the character, but when I think of like a character like it's almost like Mario, right? Where like with Mario, I associate that voice with Mario, right?
Yeah,
Or
you could never hear anybody else as that character, you
exactly,
know? It's just like
exactly,
that is the character.
exactly.
I mean, obviously, it can be hard sometimes because a lot of the stuff that I do
Mm-hmm.
is like dubs of games or shows that were originally in Japanese. And so
Oh.
a lot of times people get really they're not very nice or very respectful about the way they talk about their preferences. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like for me, it's like I don't care like how, you know, there's stuff that I want to watch or play in Japanese. That's totally fine. Like I don't care if you want to watch something subbed or play it subbed or whatever.
Right.
But just like don't be a jerk. Like don't come onto my social media and be
Mm-hmm.
like, "You suck.
You
You're
ruined the
horrible," and
voice,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like how, like I feel like that's something. I feel like it's like an understated thing of like how it's just people really forget that people like people are people, right?
Mhm.
Like why are you like why go to someone's mentions and like as if they specifically were hired to ruin this like thing that you love, or like I mean if they're
Right.
hired, yeah, it's really
Or
weird,
they
right?
blame us for things that were like clearly like localization choices or
Mm-hmm.
writing choices, or you know there's so many different factors and so many things
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes that
Yeah.
go into how something plays out, that it's like
Right.
I don't know, just why would you do that? And
Exactly.
it's like of course we obviously have to have like our real names out there and our identities and stuff like
Right.
that to promote our work, but these guys who, you know, their screen name will be like waifu lover 69 and they'll have an anime girl profile picture and be like you're fat,
Yeah,
and
oh
I'm
my
just like
jeez.
okay.
Like, thanks, buddy. Great constructive criticism is great. It's like, yeah, there's so many
Yeah,
people.
and then if
Like,
you
yeah,
block them they'll be like, oh, you
they did
couldn't
it.
handle criticism. I'm like that's
Jesus.
not, it's not constructive, there's nothing
Yeah,
about that.
exactly. Like, just yelling at. It's like there's so many people where it's just like you just know that in person and the internet would be like such a different like vibe, right? Like you would never. It's like I feel like if you would say that to my face, you would actually have like a genuine criticism and thing to tell me. But like, I know you would never come to my face telling me like, "Oh, Fidel, you're annoying as shit. Like, I hate you." It's like, it's just that power of being behind that screen, right?
Right. And I've actually had two people, believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
in person
Oh, really?
say stuff to me, and I just called them out on it right then and there
Oh,
because, you know, when you get to be my age, like not to sound like, "Oh, I'm so
yeah. I
old"
know.
or
I know.
whatever, but you know, you get to a certain point where you're just like, I'm done like just sitting there and taking it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell people like that's unacceptable. You don't talk to people like that, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, if you don't, I feel like if you, sometimes the mute and block is like a solid path, but sometimes it is important to be like, hey, you can't be an asshole. Like, you can't do that, right?
Yeah, if I think it's just like, you know, somebody being a troll or whatever, then
Mm-hmm.
just mute or block
Yeah,
them
that's
or
the
just like
easiest
ignore
thing.
it. But
Yeah.
like in person, because like these people like came up to my
Mm-hmm.
table and said something, I'm just like, no.
Right. I mean, like, in speaking of the subject of like sub and dub, like, it's like, how is that process with like, do you guys basically just get like the scripted in English, and are you guys trying to put your own flavored voice into it? Or are you trying to make it sound like the Japanese? I want like, what's the process behind that usually?
It's a little of both.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't think people realize is just how much we do reference the original on most
Mm-hmm.
projects, like, especially for anime. For games, it just depends because sometimes it's like time schedule and stuff like that.
Right.
We don't always maybe get to hear every line
Mm-hmm.
for a game. But for like anime, for example, every single line we preview in Japanese and then we do
Right.
our version. And sometimes maybe something might sound a little awkward because obviously we have to match the picture exactly, and
Right.
sometimes there's just no way around it sounding awkward because of like the timing or phrasing or whatever that we have to do.
Mm.
But I would definitely say that I try to stick pretty close to the original performance, and there's always going to be like something,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
that's maybe more like us or whatever. Like we're never
Mm-hmm.
going to sound like a one-to-one match of the Seiyu
Yeah.
most
Well, because
times,
there's
but
there's some terms and words that are just like different. Like it's like they don't come across the same way, right?
yeah, and I think it's more about like staying true to the character. So even if my voice itself sounds a little slightly different or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, it's like if I'm keeping that same character, I think that's what's most important.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say like yeah, because like the specific like character pitch. Do they like? I feel like because I feel like there's a lot of times where it does sound similar, but a lot of times where it sounds vastly different. I mean, I that's okay. Like it's hard to mimic the exact same voice, but I guess they try to go through as accurate as possible. I assume.
Yeah, generally I'd
Mm.
say they like it to be pretty close. In some cases, the director might make a specific choice to be like, okay, we want to, like say a character is like super high pitched or whatever in Japanese, like maybe
Mm.
they want it to sound a little bit more natural or something.
Right.
Or, maybe the character has a certain verbal quirk in Japanese that doesn't translate well to English, so they have to
Mm.
try to find a way to make that work. Or, if it's like, if all the characters sound pretty different, then it's possible they just didn't have the original audio to
Right.
preview.
Is there like a specific verbal like a way of speaking that you prefer? Like, do you prefer playing high pitched characters, ones that set like ones where you can use your voice a bit more? What's like your style that you prefer, or do you not
I
have
like
one?
playing mean girls.
Oh,
That's my
really?
favorite. Like really bratty and really crazy characters.
Right.
Those are my favorite. Like I'm in this show called Kakegurui,
Mm-hmm.
and I play this character named Mary, and she is just like
Um,
off the wall crazy.
what's like a is there like any example like of a mean sounding way you could say like an actual quote that you can say or no?
I think there was one, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was like, "He was a pig the whole time, you moron!"
Oh my god.
or something like that. And then I played this character in a game called Disgaea 5.
Oh yeah, I've
I
heard of it.
played the
I've
main
played
female
it.
character named Serafina. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you're
And like
Serafina.
she does what's
Oh.
called the Ojo-sama laugh, like every few lines. So she's
Oh
always
my
like,
god. Oh, that laugh.
and she's just like snobby, rich princess
Mm-hmm.
type. And I love those kind of characters. I don't know why. I just think it's
Right.
so much fun.
I mean, I think it's inherently fun because those characters are just fun, right? Like they're even if they're like
Yeah.
assholes, they're like happy about what's going on, you know?
Yeah, to
Mm-hmm.
me that's like way more fun than playing like a generic protagonist or something. I mean, obviously I'm grateful for any kind of role that I get to play,
Right.
but I'm the kind who would rather play the villain than the hero most
Oh, but
times.
that's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, do they take that into do companies usually take that into account of like do they ever tell you like here's a few characters we have is there one you'd like to play or do they just usually tell you we want you to play this character?
How it works is we'll get an audition
Mhm.
and different companies do it differently. Some of them will just send out all the characters and say like read for, the ones that you think you fit.
Mhm.
And others will specifically be like we want to hear you read for like X, Y, and Z or
Right.
whatever. So, I mean, I, as well as like most actors, just tend to audition for everything that we get sent and can reasonably do because obviously, like, even if we have preferences for characters, we just want to book.
Right,
And,
exactly.
I might want to be playing these like young, bratty characters, but there could be like, 20 other actresses in the same audition pool
Mhm.
who can do that. So it's like, okay, but I can also play like deeper voiced, strong fighters or whatever.
Right.
So I'm just going to throw everything out there
Mhm.
and, up your chances type of thing.
Right. And do you have a preference of like, do you prefer voicing video game characters or anime characters? Because I feel like with anime, for a lot of stuff, you probably have to dedicate to like, a bunch of episodes, maybe a season or two. Whereas a game is usually like, for a lot of games, you could just have one out until like a sequel, which could be like years later. Is there like a preferred style you enjoy?
Well, it just depends because certain games, for example, like Nier Automata
Yeah.
and like Tales of Zestiria, those were like quite a few hours of recording because there was
Right.
so much dialogue. And then I've also, when I did JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, that was like a few sessions total,
Right.
Um, but I think overall, I love both,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I would prefer if I had to choose one working on games because, well, selfishly, games pay better. That's what everybody's gonna
Oh,
say. But
really? Okay.
yeah. But for me, it's just like also, I feel like I have more freedom because
Mm-hmm.
with anime, everything's already like the video is already there and it's already finalized. So you have to match exactly what's there. Like you have no freedom with timing, pacing, anything like that. You just have to match the visual.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be more challenging sometimes to still act and to still, convey that same nuance of the line when you have so many technical restrictions. But for games, I mean, it just depends. Like
Right.
sometimes, yeah, you will have cutscenes where you have to match those to picture, or
Mm-hmm.
you might have loose time restrictions like, okay, this line is 3 seconds. It can't go over that, but it can be a little under, sort of thing.
Right.
But generally, just having a little more freedom to kind of say the line without having to specifically match a certain visual is
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
And like I was wondering too of like, does it does being a voice actor just like affect how, like, when you're playing a game or you're watching an anime or something, do you just by default like analyze the voice of the characters and like how they're sounding and what pitch they're doing, or are you able to kind of turn off that kind of mental workflow of it?
I always notice it.
You
I
always
mean,
notice it.
one of my directors said that because she directed so many dubs over the
Mm-hmm.
years, when she was like trying to watch a live action movie or something dubbed, she would drive her husband crazy
Oh
because
my
she noticed if the
god.
mouths were off at all with the sync or whatever.
Right.
So I think it's like I'm always gonna notice it, but the thing is, if a show or game has really, really good voice acting, then I can still like become immersed in it and not really be thinking
Right.
so much about it. But if it's bad, I notice it immediately. Like my
Right.
roommate has been playing all these old PS1 games,
Oh my god.
and it was when they kind of got like people who weren't professional
Yeah,
actors, but
back
just like
then.
people off the street or around the office to do it, and it's like so bad, and
That's
it's like
insane.
it's like funny, but I cringe at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because you'll have this character who's supposed to be like this big tough badass being like, "Here we go," or something, and he goes, "Here we go," and
Oh
it's
yeah, here we
or the
go.
death sounds are the best
Oh
because
yeah.
normally it's like if you're getting knocked out, you'll be like, "Oh," or something like that, but they'll be like, "No,
No. Yeah, it's like
no,
super stale.
no."
Oh my
So
god.
bad.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, on that front, so I guess there's been a shift in general with like now they seek out way more like professional like work. Like it's like very rare. I feel like it's much more rare nowadays, and that's why usually it's like called out when it happens that there is like a bad voice acting for a game, because I just feel like the quality has like upped so much in the years. Like, why do you think that is? Is it just because
I think
games
it's
and
a few
stuff are, yeah?
factors.
What's up with it? Yeah.
So, I think in like the 90s, it was kind of more of a novelty, like, oh, the characters talk, the characters have dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
haha, that's cool.
That's
And,
interesting.
I think probably rather than specifically seeking out actors, maybe they just kind of were like, oh, we'll just, do the voices ourselves or whatever, as long as we have something people think it's cool or whatever. But
Mm.
nowadays, games are like whole
Oh
cinematic
yeah, it's
media.
crazy,
And
right?
if you have something that looks like a movie and then you have this like really jarringly bad acting, it just
Right.
like it seems like a meme, it's funny because
Mm-hmm.
even some bad voice acting became just like memes.
Right.
And I think now it's like there's really no excuse too because there's so many people who do this as their profession that it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, yeah, you might want to cheap out and get like random people, but
Right.
you could get professional actors who will really bring your story to life.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting, and yeah, it's like when it comes to that stuff, like, yeah, I feel like it definitely, there's the up in quality of products in general in the world, right? We've just seen a shift in like people just want more quality of everything, right? Like we don't, it's like it's so hard to put out a mediocre product without the internet like noticing instantly and like laser eyeing you, right? There's just no way to avoid that.
Yeah, there's this you might have seen it, but
Mm.
there's this like meme from this game that had really like notoriously bad voice acting, and this character goes, "Now bear my Arctic blast,"
Oh yes,
and it's
yes,
like
yes.
this like
I
people
know
made
what you're talking about.
remixes of
Yeah.
it. It's so funny.
Oh yeah, there was one. I think there was one recently. I think it was like in like Trials of Mana, and there's like a ghost person, and like the voice acting there is literally like, "I'm a ghost," and I was like, it was like
Oh
hilariously
yeah, I
jarring.
think I saw that.
Yeah, so it's just like it's almost become like an oddity, which is good. Like I think ultimately that's a better thing, that like we're at that point where the norm is good stuff. Especially like I feel like I remember growing up. I mean I'm like 24, but I still had a lot of this stuff. Like people would always like, I feel like there was a time where people argued way more about sub versus dub, right? And like I don't know, like I'm sure you've seen a lot of that throughout the years, right? I feel like it's less
Yeah,
and less. I could be wrong. I feel like it is.
still see it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I think kind of my problem is that a lot of the because again, people are totally
Mm-hmm.
whatever preference they like, it's totally valid. But
Yeah,
a lot of the criticisms that I see of dubs, people are taking like 90s and early 2000s dubs, and it's
exactly.
like, but that's not where we're at anymore. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
2020, and it's so different. Because for example, I mean, there were some really good early dubs. Like don't get me
Oh, for
wrong,
sure,
but
yeah.
a lot of them, the big thing was that people would just kind of, there were a few things. They would just kind of like do whatever they want, I felt like, so they weren't too concerned with staying true to the original source material.
Right.
Sometimes things would be censored or names would be changed to sound
Mm.
more American. I know like a lot of the Four Kids early dubs were
Oh,
pretty
for sure, yeah.
egregious. Um, or like they do these like goofy, silly voices and accents that like had
Mm.
no basis in anything. And also, the acting tended to be very over exaggerated. Like, I can actually do a scary good impression of like late 90s, early 2000s anime girls, and it
Oh,
like freaks people
give me
out.
one. Give me one. Shoot me one.
Okay. So it's always because it's so over exaggerated,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's always like, "Hello, I was your ordinary Japanese high school student
Holy
until one day
shit.
I discovered I had magical powers.
Oh my
And then I
god.
met this really cute boy. I don't know if he likes me back. Oh, please, senpai, notice me.
Oh my god. Ah, that is really freaky. That is really freaky.
Next time on Generic Anime, I run with toast in my mouth because I'm late to school."
Oh my god. They really,
I
yeah.
need to do like a whole like skit with that or
You
something.
really do. That would be hilarious. Cause you have like a pretty like active Twitter and stuff. You could have a lot of fun there.
Yeah, for sure. But now I feel
Mm.
like, well, one, the clients tend to be way more involved in the end process. Like so
Right.
many times, if I've gotten into work on a show or game, you
Mm.
have clients who either are from the localization team or maybe the writers in the room, or like they fly out from Japan to
Mm.
supervise the recording. So I think it's, they realize like there is a big overseas market, and it's not
Right.
like, oh, we gotta like dub this into English for like 10
Exactly.
people, I guess. They realize that there's a whole following. Like, a show like My Hero Academia or
Right.
Dragon Ball Z or something, it's huge over
Oh yeah.
here.
It's massive.
And, those shows are known for having really, really good English dubs,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of care and time is put into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, in like Dragon Ball, I grew up watching that in dub. I didn't even know, like, I feel like I didn't even know it was in Japanese until like Super was the only time I ever watched Dragon Ball in Japanese, just because I didn't want to be behind on everything. Like, it's crazy in that sense.
Yeah. But like you'll see a lot
Mhm.
of care paid to like you know, the pronunciations and the
Right.
lore, and
Yeah.
like getting voices that like match the original Seiyu pretty
Mm-hmm.
closely in most cases. Sometimes it might be different if they want to make a stylistic choice, but
Yeah. When it comes to like personally, right? Are you the type of voice actress that's like you're cool with watching something or playing something that you voiced in without it feeling weird, or are you the type to get weirded out by it?
yeah, I'm narcissistic, so I love playing like fighting games that I'm
Right.
in and stuff.
Okay, that's cool. Which ones are you
Um
in other than Soul Cal? I know you're in
I'm
Street
in
Fighter, right?
Street Fighter,
Mm-hmm.
Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, and Dead or Alive.
Right. Okay. Okay. Who are you in Cross Tag?
Heart I Know from Arcana Heart.
Oh, that's really cool. I actually love playing that
So
character.
she's really fun because she's so obnoxious.
She's so
Always like
over
the
the. I
power of
love it.
love and
Yes.
stuff like that.
That's why it's fun to
Um,
play her.
Yeah, I think the only times that it's, like, really awkward to me to hear myself is if I don't feel I did a good job in something, and
Right.
obviously, like, I try to do a good job in everything I do, but I've definitely had projects in the past where I just didn't really get the kind of context that I needed
Mm-hmm.
for something, or, you think that the scene is gonna look like this, and then it looks totally different, and then what I did sounds out of place, or it just doesn't fit right, and that
Right.
can be hard to watch because 'cause I'm just always like, "Oh, man, I wish I did it like this," or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but if it's something that I'm, like, proud of, then I definitely want to play it, you know?
Right. And what's your like for you specific? What's kind of your mental process to get into a character? Like, is it just like you read specifically what they tell you the type to be and you try it, or do you try to like you get invested into? Because I know some people like to get invested in the character. They like to really immerse themselves in that world, and like, are you the type to like mimic the movements and stuff? Like, what's your kind of mental process to prepare for a character you're voicing?
A lot of it is just acting instinct. I think
Mm-hmm.
you have to have, like, really quick reflexes and just, like, think on your feet a lot because sometimes we'll be recording different characters for different projects in the same
Mm-hmm.
day. So, it's like you're kind of working on different things even if you have a long ongoing project, you're doing other stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
So, you kinda have to be able to just kind of turn that switch on and off, you know?
Right.
And, the other thing is that it's generally all cold reading. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like a play or like a TV show where you get the scripts ahead of time so you can memorize lines and all that. It's more just like, okay, well, today we're doing episode 9, and this one, your character is fighting against this giant dragon and trying to worry about saving their friend. And then
Oh,
we'll
right.
start with line, 59 or whatever, and they scroll down to it, and that's like the first time you're
Okay.
seeing it. So then you hear the Japanese if it's like an anime and you're watching the picture for the first time, and then
Mhm.
it's like, all right, now give us a take, and then they might redirect you or something like that. So
That's
it's
really
very
cool.
much like you have to be adaptable and just have stuff thrown at you.
That's really cool. And like, what's also I'm really curious about this just in general. Like, is it annoying to you that like people could sometimes be like, oh, could you like could you have to be tell me happy birthday or something and you like can't? Is that something that bothers you? Or is that something like you're like more like you've gotten so many requests that you don't even care anymore about stuff like that? Like, I feel like that's like a big one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of emails about that, and
Mm.
generally I try to be pretty careful about that stuff because I don't want to like kind of step on any toes of
Right.
clients' IPs and stuff like that. But
Mm.
I'll usually tell people over text like, oh, like tell your friend I said happy birthday or whatever.
Right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense, I guess, yeah. And like yeah, I guess it's like I'm sure you've gotten so many times where like in person you'll be like, "Oh, can you make this character like even I've like done that where I see a voice and I'm like, "Oh, could you have them say this?" Cuz it's cool, right? It's cool having that experience of a character you love kind of say something to you even if it's not like really like something canon in the show, but it's still something really cool.
Yeah, and like in person at events and stuff,
Mhm.
I think a lot of us are totally fine with like, yeah, like, I'll record a quick like ten
Mhm.
second thing for your friend or whatever. It gets a little bit weirder doing it like on the internet via
Right.
email and stuff because it's just
Right.
like a weird you don't really want to be charging people for something like that
Mhm.
because you can't, and it's like a whole mess. So I generally like only can do that kind of stuff if it's like
Mhm.
an in-person quick event and they're like, "Hey, my friend's on the line, on FaceTime or whatever. Can you just say like hi to them or
Right.
something?"
That's cool. That's cool. And like in terms of like in because you've done like a lot of roles now. Is there like any are there any roles that like you still like you have like dream roles that you still haven't gotten to? Like that you
Oh
really want
yeah.
to? What you
Um,
got?
I'm super obsessed with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's
Oh
like my
really?
favorite series of all time. I have a
Mm-hmm.
tattoo of the Joestar birthmark,
Oh my
and
god.
I love JoJo. So
People
the
always tell me
part
watch
6, Stone
JoJo.
Ocean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as at the time of this interview, it has not been animated yet, and
Mm-hmm.
I would kill to try out for Jolene
Oh my
if,
god.
when, because I'm sure it will get
Mm-hmm.
animated someday.
It will someday, as most things will. That's cool. Any is there any like game franchise you'd love to voice to that you haven't yet?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Guilty Gear. I would love to play Dizzy in something. I'd like to
Oh.
be Athena from King of Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Princess Peach or Princess Zelda
Oh
would
my
be
god,
awesome,
that'd
but I
be
know they're
cool.
kind of like already voiced, so I don't
Hmm.
know.
Peach is great. Can you do a Peach impression?
I sure can.
Oh my god.
I played competitive Smash for years.
Oh my
so.
god. Can you give me one? I love Peach. Peach is the homie.
Win.
Oh my god.
Sweet.
Oh my god. That's amazing. Now I can't unhear it. Now to me.
Or my
Peach.
favorite move.
Oh.
Hot.
Oh my god. Yeah, that is insanely accurate. Jeez. That's crazy. That's amazing. I mean, like, especially, I mean, have you been able, like, for stuff like that, is it always companies approach you, or can you sometimes request, like, can you send in requests, like, I'd love to try out for this?
Like, kind of how it works is there will be, like, certain studios or, like, talent pools or casting directors, and, you know, they get, like, demo submissions all the time from actors, so
Right.
it's not like, you can send in a reel to someone if you get their contact info, but it's not, they won't necessarily like see it or send you anything. So it's kind of hard. A lot of the stuff that
Right.
I've done, it's because like certain studios in LA that I'm connected with or I'm on their talent roster, they'll send out an audition for something, and we don't even always know what it is we're auditioning for because
Oh,
there's a
right.
lot of like secrecy and stuff, especially with video games. So sometimes it's just kind of like, oh, here's this like code-named or nondescript thing. We'll just send an audition, try to forget about it, because a lot of us audition pretty much every day.
Right.
So we're just sending stuff out and hoping that something will fit. Now, if I've ever gotten an audition for something that I'm like really into, like when I first read for Ace Attorney, I was
Oh
like,
my god.
like I had to, I try really hard not to get attached to anything I read for, because
Right.
there's so much competition, we might not book it. But I was like, oh, I played and beat every single game in that series.
That's amazing.
So when I actually booked it, I was like,
that's amazing. Yeah, because
and then it's hard because we have to like wait a long time till we can talk about it too when we do book it. So it's like, oh.
Right. Oh yeah, that must be like it must be so annoying knowing you're doing something cool and you're just like, I want to mention this so badly.
I know, like with I think all the fighting games I was in, I would always like look up like online, like, oh, are there people talking about it? Are there
Right.
videos out yet?
Exactly. No, it's like it's become such a cool thing that even I love. There's a weird fascination with knowing if someone played the same voice for different characters. Like I love going on the behind the voice actor or something and always saying like, oh my god, you voiced this and that. It's like it's always like so cool to search up nowadays. I love how easy and accessible it is too.
I love telling anyone who plays Soul Calibur, like having them fight 2B and Talum against each other because they sound completely different and they're
Right.
completely different character types.
It's so cool. It must be really cool. Yeah, because like even me, I'm not someone who when I like watch my own content, I'm like I actually enjoy it. Like it makes me like not that I'm like enjoying it like oh my god I love myself. It's like it's fun to be like I really like this thing I did here. Oh, this is really funny or this is really cool. I feel like that's a better way to go about it because I feel like if you don't watch your stuff or feel confident in it, it can like kind of hinder your performance for future stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like I'll just never get tired of hearing my voice come out of a video game character. That's like the coolest thing in the world to me.
Of course, yeah.
But also I try to I learn a lot from just listening to the performances of other actors I know, because a lot of them have such interesting things that they can do and unique things. And they say like, great actors just like steal inspiration from everywhere.
Right.
So, sometimes I will do something where I'm like, I maybe do something that reminds me of a friend of mine or whatever, because it's all inspiration,
Right. Which characters inspired you? Were there like characters that you were like so obsessed with voicing that they pushed you over for stuff?
I mean, there were characters that were already voiced by other people that I really was impressed by the performance
Right.
and kind of, maybe I would do a character that I took a little inspiration from that in the future in like a different performance that I did or something.
But typically you inspire yourself almost, right?
No, because I think a lot of people inspire me. It's
Right.
like there's certain actresses, especially that like any voice actress will be like, oh yeah, like these people inspire me because they're
Right.
so legendary at what they do.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, there's a lot of important people out there with that stuff. And like and in general has the culture too of the voice acting gotten better over the years? Because I know like a few years ago there was like there was a whole strike. There was a lot of I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of like fair pay and stuff like that. I don't know if like if you're allowed to address that stuff, but like has it been getting better over the years with that stuff? With how voice actors are
No.
treated? No, yes and no. Okay.
Like one thing that helps is a lot of actors now kind of like communicate with each other about stuff.
Mhm.
So if there is something going on that's like kind of shady or like not really what it's supposed to be, a lot of us will just kind of like talk to each other and make sure that,
Mhm.
we stick together on stuff. There's also some more like anime dubs are going union now, which is really cool.
That's good.
There's a group called Coda that's kind of like helping to push for that and for
Mhm.
like fair standards and stuff like that. The thing that's like kind of hard because things like rates are pretty standardized here. Like, if you go in for like an anime or video game or something, it's like, it's all gonna be paid like this certain industry standard rate, and everybody
Mhm.
on the project is gonna be getting the same hourly rate. But like where I find that things are just all over the place is like in the online world, like
Right.
indie games and that sort of thing.
Oh.
So I actually helped organize within my community, the voice
Mhm.
acting club, to kind of help people who do indie projects also sort of decide like here's a fair rate structure for us and be
Mhm.
more transparent, because a lot of times I'll see people posting like, hey, I'm developing a game, voice actors, send me your rates. And
Right.
then if somebody wants the job and wants to get it over other people, they can just be like, well, I'll do it for like practically nothing.
Right.
And then other people, it'll just be all over the place. Like there's no like
Mhm.
transparency. So that's why I'm kind of like, hey, let's
Let's
establish sort
talk.
of a
Yeah,
standard for
exactly.
that stuff too.
Yeah. No, I mean I can tell you're like you're kind of like very organized with how you like do your work. Like even just setting something up like this of like it's like, hey, here's just what to know, just to know, hey, everything's cool, or let's establish like that this is here's how we're gonna go about these things. And it's like it makes sense. I know some people could think like, oh, this is like overkill, it's unnecessary. But it's like no, you gotta establish these kind of things so that you have a healthy communication amongst each other, right?
And I write like a lot of guides and
Mm-hmm.
articles and stuff like that. And, I think it is important for people to kind of know too, like what reasonable pay rates are,
Mm-hmm.
because, you don't want to be like, overkill for like small creators who just can't afford
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But at the same time, it's like you'll see all these things. I just saw something on Twitter today where people are like, I'm offering $5 for voice acting. And it's like, I just want everyone to know that like that's not acceptable. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're like really new in your career and you feel like you have to do it because you're not going to get other work, it's like, no, because like those clients are going to treat you terribly, most likely.
Right.
And they'll make you do so much work and so much revisions, and you'll make like
Mm-hmm.
less than minimum wage. It's like
That's
not
insane.
worth it.
How does it work? But how does pay work for? Is it by line? Is it by like you? How long you're in like a studio? Is it like a contract usually? Like how is it? How does the pay work for that usually?
It's generally per hour.
Okay.
Sometimes for like online indie stuff, you'll see per line, but that's just if
Mm.
people are doing self-directed on their own time,
Right.
and they just kind of want to. Maybe those developers just kind of want to pay for how much work is
Mm.
done. But generally, it's like you go in and you have like a director and stuff like that, and you're just paid by like how many hours you spend.
Mm.
So it's the same rate whether you're like a lead or a side character, but leads will generally have more hours. So
Right.
that's
Right.
why they get paid
Interesting.
more.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And
And then another common
mhm.
misconception, just so like,
Oh yeah.
because I surprisingly still see people who believe this, but it's just like a buyout for the work. So it's like if people want
Oh.
to buy like a game or whatever to support us, like I mean that's cool.
Mm.
We get paid for like the time we worked. We're not seeing like
Oh.
extra
Right.
money from that or anything, but it's still obviously by buying the game you show, hey, like we like this content, make more of it, sort of
Right.
thing.
Okay. So you guys don't get anything if like the game was like really big or anything, right? That's a misconception.
No.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because I feel like I've had times where I'll be like, oh, I'll get this just because I specifically love this. I'll watch this like anime just because I love this voice actor or voice actress or whatever. So okay, at least yeah, I guess consuming the media is kind of the best way to support it, right?
Yeah, because I mean, that way, if something does well, they see, oh, there is a market for
Mm-hmm.
this in the US or
Yeah.
whatever.
And I mean, like, speaking on that, like, having preferences for voice actors and voices, how has it been like? Because I feel like having fans back then is different than now, because like nowadays you have to have a social media presence, right? And I'm sure that
Yeah.
that allows people to, be around you more in a good way, like for multiple things, for better. Sometimes it can be for worse, but it's like, how is it like nowadays having fans versus like back then? Like, how's the interaction flow with it?
Well, I didn't really start getting fans until Near Automata came
Right.
out because I'd done a lot of work before then, but it's just like people, until you book like a really big project or a really
Yeah.
popular character, people just kind of aren't paying attention
Right.
or whatever. But I think it is kind of hard because it's like people don't really have as much privacy anymore, and it's also very easy for, you can have like the best intentions, but if you say the
Mm-hmm.
wrong thing or like word something the wrong way or people misinterpret it, it's like it can be this big mess where people are
Right.
like, oh, I don't want to support you anymore. And sometimes you literally can't win because it's like,
Oh, for sure.
a whole bunch of people unfollowed me recently because of just me wanting to show support for like the protests going on and
Oh,
stuff like
right,
that.
right.
And because I felt like if I didn't say, I normally like try to stay out of anything controversial, but I
Mm.
felt like I have to kind of say something about this, especially
Oh,
because a
yeah.
lot of people look up to me, and I have like a lot of diverse people who follow me.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like, just wanted to like say something about that. But of course, some
Of
people got
course,
really
yeah.
mad and they're like, oh, I'm not going to like support you
This
anymore. And
isn't
it's
for,
like,
yeah.
okay.
Cool.
But I've also seen people like say something where they like didn't realize maybe it
Mm.
was kind of offensive or whatever. And then like people jump on them and be like, oh, like don't support this person anymore. So
Right.
I'm like always pretty scared of like saying anything on social media.
Yeah, I
And a
get
lot of
it.
times I'm just like, here's a picture of my cat, you
Mm,
know?
yeah, like that I feel like that really does suck as part of the growing part of like that constant feeling of like, because you have so many eyes on you, like someone will overanalyze something and someone will it, like it makes it so that you can't even just sometimes say something simple, or put out a dumb thought or something random, and you could, but it's like you have to be just more hyper aware of what you're saying.
I can post a dumb meme and somebody will
Mm-hmm.
be in my mentions being like, actually,
Oh
blah, blah,
my
blah, blah, blah. And
god,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, yeah, I deal
But,
with that, and I'm so small. I couldn't imagine for someone like you. It's crazy.
because the other thing too,
Mm-hmm.
and this can be good and bad, is that people just have a direct line now to everyone, unless it's like
Yep.
an actual celebrity who never really checks their
Their
replies or
medias, yeah.
mentions or whatever. It's kind of like people know that for someone like a voice actor who's not like really famous per
Mm-hmm.
se, it's like they can send us something and we'll probably see it. We'll
Yeah.
probably read it if they leave a comment about
Mm-hmm.
us. And so people can be really nasty. And I feel like back in the day, of course, there's always going to be nasty people, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have so much of a platform. It wasn't like
Exactly, yeah.
any anonymous person could make an account and just like directly contact
Yeah.
somebody. So, but on the flip side, it means if someone is a fan, if they do have like something nice, some
Mm-hmm.
kind of nice message or whatever, they can easily contact us. And for work and stuff, people can find
Right.
us easier.
What are some of like the nicest things people have done like through the internet, like to show like that they care about your stuff and all that?
Some nice gifts and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And recently I opened an online autograph store because of
Oh, that's
like
cool.
coronavirus. I knew I couldn't really sign stuff in person. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if you guys want to order like a signed print or whatever, you can do
Oh.
that. And I sent one to a young girl and it got like really damaged in the mail. So
Mm.
her mom emailed me being like, hey, can you send us a replacement? So I was like, okay. So, I sent it out and obviously like it cost a little bit of money to kind of
Right.
to ship a new one out and stuff like that. But it's like, well, whatever, it is what it is. And then the girl sent me this really sweet thank you note to my P.O. box. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
handwritten note and a picture
Oh.
of her cat next to the poster that was like framed and hung
Mm-hmm.
up. And everyone knows that I love cats who follows me on social media. So it's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
when
Yes, I know
people
that.
send
Yeah.
me pictures of their cats and like things like that, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so cute.
That's really
And
cool.
just like artwork, once in a while, people will do like custom artwork,
Ooh.
and that's really
That's
cool.
really cool. And I mean, like, even I've seen, like, over the past few months, like, with Animal Crossing, you're like, really open with, like, letting people, like, come hang out on your island and chill.
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
Have you gotten, like, really, are you still addicted to Animal Crossing, or has it finally calmed down a bit?
I am,
Mm.
yeah.
It's your, like, default game right now?
Kind of.
Mm. Yeah, it's, yeah, even, I feel like that game, like, it took over my existence for like a solid 2 months. Like now it's kind of chilled out because like not everyone's in there anymore the same way, and I feel like I got my island to how like I kind of wanted it to be, but it's still like it's an addiction.
And it came at the perfect time too.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like that, I feel like we'll never kind of be able to forget our time with this game just because where we were in the world when it came through, right?
Yeah.
Are there any other and are there any like other hobbies and stuff that you do aside from like the like gaming? Like I know you like to game, but is there any other stuff that people don't really know that you actually really like to do or try out?
um, into like fitness and stuff. My
Oh,
gym
really?
closed due
Yeah.
to coronavirus, so I've just been kind of taking like poke walks every day because I play Pokemon Go.
Oh, you play it. You're still into it.
Um, I I was like kind of into cosplay stuff. I wasn't really good at making my own
Mm,
stuff, but I like like doing makeup and that sort of
right.
stuff. Like doing character makeup.
Mm,
Um, what else? I mean, music. I'm a really big classic
right.
rock fan.
Oh, do you play an instrument, or you just want when you just wanted to sing? Because you said that earlier.
I tried to learn how to play bass, but I wasn't
Oh.
very good at that either.
Yeah, I feel like I there was one. Yeah, I owned a guitar, and I feel like I tried it for like a week, and I was like, I'm out. I can't. I need to be really
Yeah,
dedicated at this.
my roommate can play like any instrument ever and has perfect pitch and all this kind of
Oh
stuff. I'm
my
just like, it's
god,
not fair.
that's not cool. And I mean, for like having a roommate, is it like can they even hear you when you're in the booth, or is it like a completely like isolated spot with it?
Sometimes, but I mean, it's like we're
Mm.
both actors, so
Oh, okay, so it works out. So it's all the same gym.
yeah. So we're often just like sharing the booth. Like, oh,
Mm.
you have to record today. Okay, I'm gonna do my audition now or
Oh,
whatever.
right. Okay, okay. That's really cool. And like I feel like I mean I'm sure of this, like are you now in that kind of comfortable position where cuz I feel like when you start, right, and you kind of want to pick up as many roles as like you can no matter what, but now are you in a comfortable enough spot where you can just pick the ones that you really feel comfortable with and happy with, or do you still feel like you have to kind of pick most roles that you're given?
I still do pretty much everything
Mhm.
because I mean, the thing is, it's like I live in California and it's
Mhm.
very, very expensive to
Oh,
live
really?
here.
Okay.
And I also kind of have like a high maintenance lifestyle that I like to have, I guess you could
Okay.
say. So for me, it's like, yeah, even if it means I have to be really busy and maybe I'm not like always 100%, oh man, I love this project or whatever. It's like
Right.
I just try to work as much as I can.
Right. That's good. That's good. And
The main
you,
times
yeah.
that I turn things down are just if, like, the pay rate is really,
Right.
like it's, like, not worth it for me to do it, you know?
Right. I mean, and how does it feel in general? It's like you've been doing this for, I guess, what, like now 16 years?
Yeah.
It's insane, right? Do you feel like,
Mhm.
how do you feel right now? Do you feel like you're at that point where like you're still super motivated to do more? Do you ever see yourself like shifting into something else? Like, how's your like mood with voice acting right now?
Way more stuff I wanna do, like, I'm
Mm,
really grateful that I got to do some of my dream projects, like
right.
fighting games and things like that, but there's so many types of projects that I'm like, "I really wanna do this." Like,
Mm,
I wanna be in arcade games, but those aren't really made
yeah.
anymore,
I
so,
know.
you know. I just, like, cold emailed a company last night that
Mm.
apparently still makes arcade games, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a
Hey.
voice actress," but, like, no response, so, oh
Right.
well. That's, like, the life of most of this stuff. It's like
Mm.
we're always trying to send stuff out there and market ourselves and,
Right.
you know.
That's really good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, that's good that you still have like the drive because yeah, I feel like doing, I mean, anything vocally, right, for that long, you can. Some people could feel like they're like, okay, I've had my time with it. Is there something you'd ever want to do alongside it on the side, or do you think this would be your main one, for
Yeah,
as
I
long as you
wanna
can?
do directing and casting.
Oh, really? Okay, so you think you'd
Mhm.
move on to that? I mean,
Well,
you're.
not really, like I wanna
Mm,
still act, but I wanna
yeah,
do those things in addition.
for sure. I mean, that's cool. I mean, you like. I mean, if it's. I feel like people who. That I feel like that takes more work than you think because like directing is like being in charge of anything in general. I feel like is underrated. Like it's so much more harder than anyone thinks, right?
I mean, I don't know. I think
Mm.
also because I've gotten to do a little casting, mostly for kind of like small projects
Right.
and stuff, and I really want to do more. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm really passionate about kind of like finding the right voice for each character and that sort of thing. But it
Right.
can be tedious because the times I did it, I had hundreds and hundreds of
Oh
auditions to
my
listen to.
god.
And sometimes it just starts to like blend together after a
Mm-hmm.
while, and you're like, oh man, I don't know. And,
That's crazy.
so I can't blame a lot of casting directors for being like, oh yeah, I see a familiar name. Let me listen to that one or whatever.
Right, right. Damn, that's crazy. But yeah, so that's really cool. We're actually, I think we're voicing in the same game. I think you're in the game Breathless, right?
I think so. It's,
Yeah,
it's hard to keep track
yeah.
sometimes.
I think you're in. I think I remember seeing your name there because I'm doing a character in that because my friend's the one making the game and he was like, "Do you want to just voice this one character for fun?" I was like, "Sure." And then I saw your name on there.
Awesome.
I was like, "Oh shit, that's really cool." Yeah, because even like for me, I mean, it's more of a small thing, but I've always been really good at like imitating voices and doing different voice acting. People have always told me, "Oh, you should try voice acting." So it'll be fun to be at least in like a project, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to start is to
Mm-hmm.
just like do some small projects and
Mm-hmm.
any kind of acting training you can get is going to be really helpful.
Right, right. Yeah, realistically, like I'm more of like streaming and internet content kind of person. I feel like if I ever really did voice acting, it would be more like for fun, like for in like maybe indie stuff or smaller stuff. But
Yeah, and that's totally valid.
yeah, for sure, it's cool. But yeah, so with that in mind, I feel like it's a good place to. I like to end these usually with like three things, right? So first of all, you ask me something. You gotta ask me a question. What do you got for me?
Okay. So I see you have a Smash Brothers profile picture. Who is your main in Smash Ultimate?
Who is my main? So let's see. So that's a really hard question, right? Because I feel like back then when there was maybe 20 characters in, that was a much easier question to answer.
Right?
Right now, when I have 80, I feel like I'm at that point where I can't just main one anymore. So I can give you like my group there's a group that I hover towards. Like they're the ones that I kind of rotate to. So I usually rotate to Sonic, the Inklings, Mario, Ridley, and Isabel in Smash Ultimate right now.
Nice. Yeah, Ridley's one of my mains too.
Oh, you do? Who do you main usually? Is it who else other than
Ridley
Ridley?
and Zelda.
Oh, Ridley and Zelda. Yeah, I love Zelda in this game is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially because he has like the link between worlds design, which is like way more cooler
I
than the Twilight.
love that one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so crazy because she sounds like so identical to me,
Mm-hmm.
like her efforts.
Oh, really?
I think just the Japanese actress who played her in the original game, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
we sound so similar. My friends are like, "Is
Right.
that?
Can you do
No,
it?
it can't be."
Can you try it? I want to hear it. The
Yeah,
Zelda.
I mean, because it's pretty much just like
Mm-hmm.
noises, like
Oh my
stuff like
god,
that.
that is really good. That's insane. So what would you say is also like what do you think is like is your favorite role to be or is it the JoJo character you did?
I mean, I love both of them so much
I
in their own
know.
ways.
I know.
I usually say to be for that question just because like
Mm-hmm.
that was the role that changed my entire career.
That's amazing. Yeah. I have my friend who he has the 2B thinking face profile picture, and he's like one of my
Aw.
best friends, and he was like so excited for me to do this. So yeah, he's a
I'll
good
tell
dude.
your friend hello from me.
There we go, and then he'll be happy with that alone. So then usually I like to ask, is there well, I already asked you where do you want to be in the future, so that takes care of that one. Is there someone else you would recommend for me to have one of these conversations with? That's usually one I like to ask. I put it like on a list.
Zeno Robinson, he's really blowing up recently, and he's just such a kind and honest and amazing person.
Right.
And he is like, I am so proud of all of his success recently.
That's really cool. That's really cool. All right, cool. I'll put him on my list and hopefully I can get him on there at some point. Well, with that, I think I'll let you go with that. So thank you so much for doing this with me, Kira. It really means a lot. I really do love your work, and I hope you continue to thrive.
Thank you so much for having me. I really
No problem.
appreciate it.
No
This was
problem.
fun.
It was fun. It was really cool. So, hey, hopefully maybe someday I can have you back. We can talk about whatever else is going on and all that stuff. And I hope everything's good with you. Cool. So thank y'all guys for watching. Oh, do you want to plug your stuff? Where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, honestly, if you just search my name, you should be able to find me. Comes up pretty easily.
Yeah, there we go. All right, guys. So thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next episode.